All right, here we go. Welcome to Trenchometry, where we're going to discuss the most undervalued aspect of the game of football, which is the offensive line. Today, our guest is a 14-year head coach and offensive coordinator from Lafayette High School in Williamsburg, Virginia. He's a self-described average Joe, but his success hardly points to that average. He's won over 150 games in his tenure and has only lost 22, folks. That's an 87% win percentage. With 6 state finals appearances and 2 rings, I'd like to welcome Andy Linn to the podcast today. So welcome, Andy. Glad you're here. And I'm super excited to chat with you and pick your brain because you have a big football brain. I don't know if anybody's told you that before. But you
Well,
got
I
a big.
appreciate you having me on.
All right. So take me through your background in coaching. What got you into coaching real quick?
Well, I tell you what's funny is I never really intended to be a coach. You know, I was at William Mary, as you well know, and my junior year at William Mary, my academic advisor came up to me and said, "Hey, you need to choose a major." And I was like, "Okay, well, what do I have the most credits in?" You know. And so she said, "Well, you could be a teacher." I said, "Okay, well, I'll be a teacher." Still no intention of coaching. Graduated William Mary, was working at Paul's Deli, and I get a call from a principal in town here in Williamsburg, and he says, "Hey, come on over. We'd like to interview you for the PE job." So we're interviewing for the PE job. Ed Boyd at that time was the offensive line coach at Lafayette High School, and he calls me and says, "Hey, I heard you're working in the district now. Do you want to help me with the offensive line at Lafayette?" I said, "Sure." Well, anyhow, I get this PE job, and they have a head football coach, but within 2 weeks he gets fired or kind of quits. It's either way. And they're like, "Well, hey, we need a football coach. So can you stop coaching at Lafayette and come be this middle school football coach?" Because it was at a middle school. And I said, "Sure." So that really is how I became a football coach. No intention of really doing it, just kind of fell into it and have just kind of climbed the ladder,
You
doing
worked
what
your
good
way up.
assistants are. Yeah,
Worked your
doing
way
what
up.
good assistants are supposed to do and that kind of stuff. And to the point to where now, I've been a pretty successful head coach.
Timeline between that first middle school job and moving up into the we said the varsity ranks or the high school ranks.
So I was a middle school coach for 6 years. Then I was an assistant for 14 years. And this will be my 15th, 16th, 15th year as a head coach.
That's awesome.
So so 36 years.
And you took over a program that was not necessarily a renowned football powerhouse when you got there,
At
correct?
Lafayette.
Correct.
Well, when I got there as an assistant, when I got there as assistant, the whole new staff came on and we were changing everything.
And
And
you guys weren't they weren't very good.
they had been 5-45 the 5 previous years.
Ouch.
And in the first 2 years, we went to the playoffs and then the state championship game the second year. At that time, I was only the offensive coordinator and the offensive line coach.
That's
And
that's a phenomenal 5 to 45 up to an 87 percentage
yeah.
win percentage is
And
pretty.
then, we've just been, there were 2 great coaches I worked under, Dan Antolic and then Paul Wheeler. And then as an assistant, those guys taught me kind of the ropes of some things. And then, when you get your own head coaching job, you just kind of put your own little touch on it.
And go from there.
And we continue to be successful.
And your unit, you still coach the offensive line as your
Well, I had given it up. Here's what's funny. I had given it up to one of my former offensive linemen for about 2 years. But it just didn't feel right. We didn't play poorly. We played pretty well. But
but
for me, it didn't feel right. And so
you're outside of that
um,
goes on.
I'm going back to the offensive line and defensive line this year. Yeah.
That's
So
awesome.
I'm going back where I belong. And I can tell you, I haven't been this excited in about 3 years.
It's like putting on your old pajamas. It just feels good. And
It's absolutely, yeah. Oh, it's like going home. It really is.
so talk to me. What's your philosophy? How do you approach your offensive line preparation? Just say, let's say in a preseason, as you guys getting ready to start the preseason here towards the end of the week, what is it that you're trying to get your guys, those first few weeks, what are you trying to get into your guys' heads? What are you trying to get them to be able to demonstrate for us?
Well, long before we even get into that, I still go by the things we learned from Coach Bratton. Coach Bratton would always say back, and I had a great high school coach named Charlie Ackerman, who was my line coach, and these guys really stressed how your offensive line have to be friends.
Oh, yes.
They've got to trust one another, right? So back in 1997, when we started, I actually started an offensive line meal every Thursday to where we go to a different offensive lineman's house and their families feed us. They feed the whole entire offensive line. And we've been doing that since 1997. But the first thing I try to do is get the guys to hang out, be together, plan activities. I might plan the first couple, but then they take to one another.
Yeah.
Um,
That's
you know,
important.
sometimes people try to, pigeonhole offensive linemen, oh, hey, you'd be a good offensive lineman. But in today's world, if a kid doesn't want to play offensive lineman, he's not going to be a good offensive lineman. It's just not going to happen.
It makes that transition from the defensive line, defensive end, defensive tackle to the offensive line once they realize they just don't quite have the skills to
Right.
accomplish what they need to over there on that side, on the other
Yeah.
side.
But if they don't want it, then it's hard to make someone want to be an offensive lineman.
The most unnatural skill set ever, to put your face and run into something as fast and as hard as you can repeatedly.
Right. And to know glitz or glamour or pictures or articles in the paper, or, you're not the guy that scored the touchdown. You're not the guy that made the sack. And in today's world, that's what a lot of kids want. They want their name out there, and they don't get that as offensive linemen for the most part.
So after you've established this friendship, this reliance on each other, where are you going on the field? Once they have that camaraderie developed by the meals, the common history, the common occurrences, where are you going after that on the field? What are you trying to get those guys to be able to do?
Well, the first thing we're going to be able to do is we got to communicate. We're first thing we do, we break the huddle. Now we're gonna do changes here. We're gonna pick up the pace a little bit this year. We're gonna go to a sugar huddle where we're gonna be 5 yards off the ball. And if you're ready for this, every one of my offensive linemen will be in a 4-point stance.
Okay.
Because we're coming off the ball. But communication is the first thing. You got to get out there, and every one of my linemen have to call out the technique on them, so that everybody knows their rules and they know what techniques.
And when you say technique, talk that real quick so that everybody that's paying attention here.
Yeah, so you go with your, and I know some people call some things
Different,
differently,
yeah,
but
exactly.
outside eye, the guard's a three technique, insides a one technique for us, 4 eye inside of the tackle, 5 outside eye of the tackle, 4 head up the tackle, 2 head up the guard, and of course you got a 0 technique or shades on the center. So, they're calling out there, So the first thing they've got to do is they've got to be able to communicate. And then, I'll break, hopefully we're doing a good enough job in the weight room to where what I'm going to put on the field, I don't have to go out there on the field and make them a physical football player or make them hopefully what we've done in the weight room translates to what we're doing.
Mass and
Right.
strength capacity to move things where they don't want to go with them.
Correct. So it's got, I don't have to go out there and do that part of it. So then, it's the communication, it's the mental part first, whether it's going to be, and of course, with all this, of course, you've got to have fundamentals. Some things will never change on the offensive and defensive lines. Low man is always going to win. Your first step is going to take you where you're going, no matter what you think. You can say it's not taking you there, but it's going to take you there. All the same, flatbacks and all that stuff are there. Those things still reign true on the offensive line play. Just,
I said steering wheels. Your toes are steering wheels. You got 2 steering wheels on your body, your eyes and your toes.
Yes.
And you got to point your toes in the right direction on the first step, or you'll never get to where you want to go. That's for sure.
That is 1000% true. I mean, and so, the thing we stress all off season is we will go out and we will do every fundamental. We bird dog every week. We're one step in here. We're one step in fire step, down step, reach step, pull step. And that's an every Monday thing,
Throughout the season or
throughout the entire season and the off season,
all right.
because we're in the off season. I'm a strange football coach when it comes to the off season because we don't get together very often. We run the wing tee. We don't throw the ball very often. And we throw it about 12 times a game, but that's not often for most people. But so we don't do a lot of 7-on-7s. So our position groups get together and do certain things, but we very rarely come together all together as a team. So the offensive linemen have their days are on Tuesdays, and we come out and we go through the fundamentals and do that kind of stuff every Tuesday. Once we hit like February.
So you're using that, you're trying to develop that muscle memory and that lower body muscle memory all season, all year, throughout the year.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Because as well as I did, we went through it back in the day. You get in a stance the first time in 2 months, the next day you don't feel real good about it.
Legs are burning.
Yeah, exactly right. So keeping them in those stances, at least once a week when we're doing stuff helps them keep that muscle memory all the way through. And then it allows you to just go through the steps of fundamentals and all the other.
Do you have, as you're doing those steps with your players and you're focusing on the fundamentals and you're having them communicate and they're developing those relationships and they're commiserating about how much their legs hurt, how sore they are, or what their bench rep went up to or squat rep went up to, that, as they're developing that camaraderie and that bond between them. Do you have specifics you're looking for each position, for tackle, for guard, for center? Is there anything that any one of those three positions that you look at a kid and you say, okay, that kid's a tackle? Is there something that pops out off of him that you see, then you automatically know that's what you want to go with, or do you just kind of let them filter into where they have been most comfortable?
No, or I will put them where I think they can, because in the way we do things, we're never very big. I think my biggest kid's 6'5", 270. And it goes drastically down from there.
So that's
But,
nothing to sneeze at, but
well, we went to the state championship 2 years ago. Left side of my line was 165 and 180. So that's, and they played against the kid that's going to Clemson, but, I always start with what we do. I always start with the guards. They're your best athletes. They're your best movers. But first thing with us is all 5, 6, because I count the tight end with them. All 6 of them have to be able to move.
okay.
You've got to be able to get out of your stance and move. And
With that wing attack, you're doing some pulling, you're doing some trapping, you're doing some
tons of it, right? And everybody pulls. Minus the center, everybody else pulls. Tackles pull on counters, tight end pulls on a counter, and the guards are pulling all the time, constantly.
That's awesome. And they're getting hit. You're hitting the defenders from every which way you can.
Every way you can go at them, yes. And so we'll get our bigger kids that can move to play tackle. Your better athletes and probably your nasty physical kids are your guards.
Got it.
And your most dependable kid that can move, he's going to be your center. He's going to make sure the ball gets there every time. And
one job, first and most important job, on the
right,
get it to his hands.
Yeah.
And so what would you say after you have those guys divided up and you're working on your fundamentals? What would you say the most important skill that you got to get those guys, the most important physical skill that you're going to develop in your guys? What do you think that would be in your brain?
Well, in my brain right now, it's going to be bend. You got to be able to bend, because, I teach guys all the time. If you're blocking someone and you look like this, and this is your head and this is your tail end, where are you going to end up? Right? You've got to be here and bending correctly so that you're going to be the driver, not the drivee.
That's right.
And so bend is one of the first things that we're going to work on and work on and work on. And then, of course, bringing your feet, all the, keeping your base, proper steps. But when you just talk about physical traits, you've got to be able to bend.
Would you say most of your starters is the offensive line and playing at a high level where you're a perennial state qualifier, you're going deep into playoffs? Are most of your offensive linemen older guys? Does it take them a year or two in your program to develop the skills that they need to get on the field? And like
Absolutely.
A sophomore starter would be unheard of probably, or
Yeah.
a unicorn amongst all your other players?
Yeah, I would bet you in all the years I've done this, I've had one freshman. He was now the guy I just had as my offensive line coach. He actually started 4 years for me as a freshman, and then I have a sophomore battling it out this year. I've got a kid that's a senior who started as a sophomore at the other guard, but he's an all-state player, so he's a little different than your normal sophomore. But in our program, almost all players play 2 years of JV before I move any of them up, we just had a guy drafted second round by the Ravens, right? He didn't play. He didn't start a varsity game until the playoffs his sophomore year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So we got a little bit earlier than everybody else.
Yeah, a little bit earlier, but still played almost 2 full years of JV football before he played. It's just, so yes, most of my older guys are the guys that play. Like offensive line this year, we'll go junior, senior, sophomore, junior. So
that's impressive, and that's hard. It's hard that those guys have to wait that long, but it's almost mandatory based on all the skills that they have to develop, and the communication skills and the bend and the knowing how toes and angles and all that kind of stuff. It's a higher level skill set to develop. It's not like, we always said, well, running back, you just run around in your underwear and try not to get hit. That's easy. Anybody can do that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We got jet sweep, the guy's taking the ball and running as fast as he can.
Go.
It's not, he doesn't have to worry about, open step, break glass, reach through, pull, lead, none of that stuff. None of that's going through his mind. He's just running as fast as he can.
Don't let that ugly guy from the other team catch you. That's
correct. That's exactly right.
That's the key. Okay. Give me your let's say top 3 most influential drills that you're going to do with your guys.
Top 3 most influential drills. 1, we're under the chutes. We're in the shoot. All right. That's one of our biggest things. Shoot boards and shoots,
How many days a week are you doing the shoots? And I'm assuming this is in season too.
boards and shoots is twice a week.
Twice a week. Okay.
Twice a week we do boards and shoots. First day is all fundamentals, boards and shoots, just your steps. And there's always a finish to it. You got to finish on your
Mhm.
belly, on the bag, and then second day of shoots is we have a trap and a buck drill where we're running trap under the shoots. Guards are, you can tilt the chute down a little bit to hold the bag. That's the guy there trapping all that. And then we're pulling buck around. Somebody's holding one bag, pulling through the other side. So
You're not
shoots.
just doing, it's not just stance and starts for you. There's some action in there too. You're
Oh,
banging.
there's action. Absolutely. Yeah. No. Stance and starts is the first day. That's the fundamental day. But you're always going to end up hitting a bag. We never just go ahead and hit nothing.
Right.
That's just going to, that just teaches a kid to go stand straight up and walk away.
Bad habits, right?
We want to finish where you're going to finish in the game.
Okay.
So first one would be shoots. The next one would probably be, so we have heavy dummies and we do what's called a foot fit drill. All right. Where we teach hip rotation. So we'll start on what we call a 6-point stance, 2 toes, 2 knees, and your hands on the ground. You'll load up one arm where you're taking it back, and then you're bringing that up. Because we teach shoulder skills. We're not, I have very few guys that are benching 350 pounds. So they're not going to be taking guys and doing all this.
Yeah. Not too much face blocking and
no, right. We're getting off the ball and thumping you.
Right.
And so we start in a 6-point and we'll thump there. And then eventually you get to a 4-point. Or now it's just your toes and your knees and you're loading it up and the same thing. But every time you're doing it, the key is you're bringing your hips and you're ending up with
rotate.
your what we call, you're going to end up with your Peter to the pad.
That's right.
Every time your hips, if you're not bringing your hips, you're not blocking anybody.
That's right.
No matter what happens.
It's funny. I always thought about that, how far your butt is in that stance, in that 6-point stance or that 4-point stance, how far you can start where your butt starts, how far you can get your butt past your knees, basically. That's the success. That's the measurement of movement you'll probably get on a guy.
Correct. Right. So it's, I don't do any wasted drills. Like everything we're going to do is going to be used on the field.
Just building towards that Friday night.
Yeah, absolutely. And then let's see, what would be a third? Let's see. A lot of the stuff's mental. It's not really drills.
Do you do mental drills? Do you do walkthrough and that kind of
absolutely. Absolutely. So we almost every day we'll go through a different series mentally, and that's what I call bird dog.
Okay.
They'll get in the preset. Although they don't even have preset in the game, but because they get set immediately out of the hub. But they come to the line, they're in preset. I'll call the cadence and they've got to take their first step. Again, it's talked about what we talked about earlier. Yeah. Your first step's going to take you where you're going. Well, now if you're supposed to be down blocking here, and this defensive guy's here, look where your toe's going. Are you going to hit that down block? Is your head going to get across him on that down block? No, it's not. You're going to miss that down block and you're going to create a crease where he can get through. So that's one of our very valuable ones too. If you can put those 3 things into your practice plan, you can be successful.
I think walkthrough is one of the most underrated things that people just cut out when there's a lack of time. And we even got to the point in my last few years as we were going through, instead of lifting, and our guys would lift, we were lifting probably 2, sometimes 3 days a week, depending on the week. But we would cut out a weight room session during the last period of the day. And we would go out and we would literally do walkthrough.
Yeah,
that's 45 minutes walking through instead of, and if you have a lot of shifts and motions and all that stuff, that's a good time to get all that stuff in as well. But
right.
But that was something just so my offensive lineman knew, hey, if you're too tight on that angle with your toe, you're going to miss, that guy's going to scrape over the top, or you're going to, the down block angle, you're going to have a crease there. Or if you're not setting that, when we trap, we'd say, put them on rails, you want your toes and your feet to be on rails, and there's 2 sets of rails for a tight trap and a little bit wider rails for a wider trap. But just getting those little subtle things down that it's hard to do when you have somebody breathing in front of you and trying to.
Yeah, well, if you think about it this way, your offensive lineman, well, really all your players, but your offensive lineman especially, if they know where they're going, they're going to be so much better. Then it's just a matter of getting off the football. You can fix the rest of it. So
you can get up and just call
invaluable.
Linebacker.
Yeah, right. Exactly right. But it's invaluable. I know when I played, if I knew where I was going, I was better. If I'm up there thinking about, should I go here? Am I supposed to go there? Am I supposed to do this? Then you might be a step slow.
That's right.
You're going to be hesitant when you get there. All those things.
Yeah. Processing instead of reacting.
Right.
That's not good.
No.
What do you think is one thing that offensive line guys spend too much time doing?
Well, what I see nowadays, kick slide.
Mm,
I mean, we don't do any of that stuff, but the stuff I see, I've coached high school football a long time. I have yet to play a high school in 30 some years that had 5 guys up front that should be kick slide and
mm,
blocking like a major college team or a pro team. You know what I mean? But you watch all these camps and all these drills, and we're teaching them to kick slide and catch a medicine ball, and boom, 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 and then you go play a team when that kid never gets in a stance and he's in an up stance the whole game.
mhm.
I'm gonna guarantee you, we see him in an up stance, we are as excited as all get out because we're gonna be in your belly before you have a chance to breathe. It's
And
just
now you're going backwards. You're on skates
right.
going the wrong way.
We've almost taken physicality out of the offensive line with in some ways when you do some of that stuff.
What
And I don't want to offend anybody who does that
yeah,
stuff. And it's just, and they may be sitting there with 280, 260, 260, 280, and 225, 230. I'm not sitting there with that.
right.
So I've
At
got to coach
at
to what my best
165
players are the best.
at 165 and 180, that's not gonna be something you want to get
No,
back.
they're in survival mode. Correct. Correct. That's exactly right.
He doesn't need a head start. Okay, so as you guys are developing, your angles, your toes, your mental game, your ability to talk back and forth, you're under the chutes, you're grinding under the chutes, you're learning how to get that hip roll on your heavy bag or sled even. Do you guys hit sleds? Is that something that you
We
guys
don't
have?
even have a sled. No, we hit just heavy
Okay,
bag and then we're under the chute.
okay. Well, I know that we use that 6-point progression on a two-man sled when we taught it. We had a smaller two-man sled that we could use, and
Mhm.
that was helpful because I didn't have to worry about someone holding the bag. Shoot, yeah. Do you ever teach you guys how to hold the bag? Is that something
Oh,
you have?
so that's the first thing we do is, you're on this. This is where you're holding the bag. This is where your
Yeah.
arms got to go. When I say rotate, you go this side, he goes that side. Let's make sure we have this all right. Yes. Oh, yeah. Because that can be a disaster.
Oh my gosh, totally agree with that. All right, so here we go. We're going to get into one of the last things here.
All right.
Favorite and most amount of characters on the offensive line. So is there somebody that you've coached, played with maybe that sticks out in your mind as one of the most entertaining people that you had the opportunity to spend time with playing football? And who was it? What made him so entertaining? And you have any funny stories you can share? Because that's always something I think that top to bottom, left to right, middle school on up through the professional ranks, your offensive linemen are going to be the ones that
Oh, there's
set the
absolutely
pace.
no doubt. Well, I will tell you, I was blessed when you want to talk about characters when I started at William Mary as a freshman. So when I came into William Mary, I was not supposed to be, one of the guys that played. I was a guy, but they brought in another guy from Warrenton, Virginia, a guy named Tom Hayes. I don't know if you ever knew him,
No.
but he was 6'8", 285 pounds, and he was the guy that was going to back up Archie Harris. And we got into camp, and Tom was just terrible. And I don't think he wanted to play. In fact, he didn't want to play because we came back the next summer. Coach Bratton had he and I come back for a running test, and we were running around that track.
Yeah.
And we're coming around the track one time, and Tom Hayes jogged out of the stadium, jogged out of Cary Stadium, and I never saw him again. Left me hanging. I'm running there by myself. So anyhow, I ended up being the guy that backed up Archie Harris that freshman year. And I got to hang out with Scott Perkins, Mike Groot, John Menke, Yogi Moore, met Graham Miller. But the offensive line guys at William Mary were hilarious. I mean, would sit behind Bratton at film and have like handkerchiefs over their mouths like this, like they were cowboys, watching film. And then they'd catch him turn around, and they'd be pulling him down real fast, or best story is we're in a game one time playing Colgate, and Modrak and Menke were rotating at one tackle. Archie was the other tackle. And Modrak and Menke are rotating back and forth. And at that time, Colgate's middle linebacker was Greg Minuski, right? And so we're playing them, and Brad would always come up and he'd talk to us between series and he'd say, okay, so-and-so, you're the next group in. Remind people who's rotating, whatever, right? So he said it one time, and Modrak goes to me, oh, he said, Menke, you're in. Menke goes, no, he didn't. He said, you're in. Well, they were arguing about who was in because they were tired of down blocking on Minuski. It was hilarious. And I mean, those two guys were good football players, but they said it was like hitting a cement building when they hit the guy,
Oh yeah.
you know? Guys like that were, or guys you played next to like Reggie, I played next to Reggie White, and we'd get into practice, and the huddle call would be like 683 dive up on one. So you're not getting in your stance, and you get down, you get up to the line of scrimmage, and they'd start calling the cadence, and Reggie would kind of do the fake, like he was getting in a stance and come up, and you'd catch him out of the corner eye. So all of a sudden you got in a stance, and then you got Laycock in the background going, "Nice job! He
Yeah.
set up. You're supposed to be up, not down in your stance." And then you're cussing at your buddy next to you because he did it to you. You know,
Picked you out.
but that kind of stuff when I was at William Mary made playing at William Mary fantastic. I
Oh
mean,
yeah,
it was
bunch of
great.
characters.
Yeah.
That is phenomenal.
And I've coached some kids like that, but kids just aren't they're not as much free loving as we were back in those days. They still take some things seriously. And I mean, I've had some guys. The guy who plays center for me now, his name's Meatloaf. He's
Oh,
about
good.
and his
Excellent
name
name.
his name's Meatloaf because he looks like Meatloaf. His hair
Okay.
goes down past his shoulders. He's got a full beard. I mean,
Looks
he
like
looks like
the singer
he
meat.
looks like a 30-year-old man, except he's like 5'8",
Yeah.
maybe 5'8". If I said 5'9", I'm stretching it. About 230 pounds. Now, he can
Nice.
play football because he's a low grader,
Oh, I
but
bet.
he comes out there and somebody would usually come over to him and go, "Are you in high school?" But
Yeah.
but the kids today, especially with my group, they do a really good job of just being friends, and they do play jokes on each other all the time. They're in group chats together. I mean, I wish they were a little bit more free loving. I understand kids are more serious than we were, uh, but those stories from William Mary, man, I'll never forget that. That just made playing William Mary great.
That's and I don't know I don't know who started this. I have a feeling it was probably you or before you guys. The phantom tap on the officials during the game.
Mhm.
That always got me. I enjoyed
You know,
watching.
you know who was doing that all the time? Peter Reed.
Peter Reed, yeah, he was famous for the phantom
Peter
tap.
Reed was the champ of the Phantom Tap.
And if you're not aware what a phantom tap is, that's going up behind somebody on the left side of them and tap them on the right so that they turn around, and then you keep right on walking. And he used to do that to the officials during football
Right.
games
Yes, he did.
on the way back to the huddle, and just giggle about it. And then watch the game and be like, watch, 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 watch. He's not worried about the block. He's not worried about what happened on the play. He wants to see himself phantom tap the official.
Living with that guy for 3 years like I did was unbelievable. He was awesome.
Yeah, that was a whole lot of good tackle. And that was that
Yeah.
out in the Midlands? You guys living out there
Yeah.
at the Midlands together?
Yep. Out in the Midlands. That's exactly right. They're still there today.
That's incredible to think that too. I would have thought they would have blown over in a stiff wind by
No,
now.
you would think so. Yeah, but nope. There's a lot. There. In fact, one of my assistant coaches owns like 4 or 5 of them.
Oh,
That's what he rents out to people.
he's
To
a
William Mary kids.
slumlord to the William
Right.
Mary football
You
club.
are not lying to the William.
That's awesome. Last question for you: do you guys have a motto for your offensive line?
So I could tell you this: we have never, for some reason, I'm super old school and I've never had like sayings on the back of shirts. I've never been a sayings on the back of shirts, and we've never really, we just they're just I've never done that, and so we really don't have one. I mean, it's just
I was just curious the rub the dirt on it style that you just described there. Rub some dirt on it, get back in the game.
yeah, oh yeah.
That's fun to have
Now,
that mentality, though.
yeah, they have there's a lot of sayings we say at practice. I still use Tom Bratton's. It sounds like mice pissing on cotton, when they're hitting, or you know,
That's
get
not
your
good. That's a bad thing.
get your dick in the dirt, all that stuff that we heard
Yeah.
back in the day. I still use all that stuff with them, but just no general sayings. We really are a lunch pail crew that's going to come off the ball, and play as long as we can,
And that's keeping it simple means people don't have to think and they can go fast and bend
and
and
just play
take.
fast and play football.
That's right, and put that
Yep.
practice from the week into action. So, well,
And
that's
what it does for us is it makes offensive line fun. We do have guys now that want to play offensive line, because we're just getting after and running. I mean, we're going to attack the first level, of course, but we might have only 4 of the front guys attacking the first level. We're going to have 3 guys running somewhere downfield looking for people.
getting a twofer.
Right, which makes it fun.
Yeah, picking on the little guys. That is fun. That was always
Trying. That's right.
That's awesome. Well, Andy, I appreciate you taking time out of your schedule. I wish you the best of luck this year. I look forward to following the Lafayette Rams into the state playoffs and seeing you put that 3rd ring on your finger and be carried off the field, which is a
I don't know if they're carrying me off the field, but
well, they can try. Maybe they can try to lift you up a little bit, get you off your toes. And I appreciate it. I look forward to watching and following, and I do value all the lessons you taught me out on the field, and look forward to all those extra lessons you're teaching those guys this year. So good luck, and God bless.
Yeah, man. Hey, look, I appreciate what you're doing now. We need more people talking about the line.
Yeah,
So we do appreciate it. And I appreciate you having me.
I appreciate you being here, and look forward to talking to you again here in the near future.
All right, my friend.
Bye.
Bye.